Now we skip the rest of that paragraph because he just says again and he goes over his stuff. So there we are, chapter 2 of book 3. Both the voluntary and the involuntary having been delimited, we must next discuss choice, for it is thought to be most closely bound up with virtue, and to discriminate characters better than actions do. Now, that's a good point right there. How do you discriminate characters? How do you judge characters? How do you... I think I can't say a better one than judge. How do you judge a person? You can either judge them on their choices, or you can judge them on their actions. So, the key there, I think, is just imagine two people who you say, look at them. They're both taking the exact same action. Whatever the action is, buying a car, building a bridge, building a house, buying a house, getting a job at a factory, whatever. They're taking the same action. But then you go up and you ask them why. And one of them might not have as good of an answer as the other, even though it's the same action they're taking. I think that's to be remembered, that once in a while you will see somebody doing something that is good if the guy's motivation is good. In other words, if he chose it for the right reason. But if he chose it for the wrong reason, then it's not a good action. So, like, why are you washing out the shot needles? Because it kills germs. Good. Okay. Because it gets rid of bad spirits. Ooh, maybe not so good. Because then you might say to him, you have to make sure that you do it with sterile stuff, and you should just throw it away and stuff. It's, you shouldn't be reusing it anyway. But in Africa they reuse them endlessly. So there are ways of sterilizing them that these people use, but they don't use them. I mean, if you're just going to pass a demon through it to do the job, you don't need to get it into every crevice. The demon's magical. He'll take care of it. So it's the reason you're doing something, the choice you're making to do that, rather than just the action by itself. Now, Ayn Rand made this point in her book on the art of fiction, that if you want to show who a character is, or if you want to characterize, if you want to know how to do characterization, how to build a character, she said you show motivation. You show why he does things he does. Now that means you've got to have two ingredients. You've got to have the things he's doing, the backdrop of the plot and some action. Something has to happen. He has to do more than sit on a couch and talk to friends. You have to have the things he's doing and the reason he's doing them, the storyline and his motive. But you can't just have people say of him, he's strong, he's independent and stuff. You have to show him being independent and assertive in business or whatever. So showing motivations the way to characterization in fiction, and discerning motivation is the key to judging a person morally as far as ethics goes. So says Aristotle. Alright. Choice then seems to be voluntary, but not the same thing as the voluntary. The latter extends more widely. For both the children and the lower animals share in what we call voluntary action, but they don't share in choice. And acts done on the spur of the moment we describe as voluntary, but not as chosen. So a whim is voluntary but not chosen, or on the spur of the moment, maybe he means jumping if you see a spider. Voluntary but not chosen. But what about that part about children and the lower animals? Probably he's referring to the argument he gave earlier about knowledge. If you lack knowledge, you can't be said to act voluntarily. You're just acting on too limited of a basis for us to say that that's really voluntary action. You were delimited, and in some sense you weren't acting voluntarily. There wasn't really a choice available to you because you didn't have the knowledge. Those who say it is appetite or anger or wish or a kind of opinion do not seem to be correct, for choice is not common to irrational creatures as well. For choice is not common to irrational creatures as well, but appetite and anger are, right? Irrational creatures have appetite and anger. Choice is separate from those. It's a totally different, separate phenomenon. Again, the incontinent man acts with appetite, but not choice, while the continent man, on the contrary, acts with choice, but not with appetite. Maybe that goes a little too far, but I don't know. I don't think so. So the continent man, the reasonable man, the man who's got it together, acts from choice rather than just appetite or whim or urge. Again, appetite is contrary to choice, but not appetite to appetite. Appetite's not contrary to appetite. Again, appetite relates to the pleasant and the painful. Choice neither to the painful nor to the pleasant. Now, appetite relates to the pleasant and the painful. Fine, our whims, our desires. And choice neither to the painful nor to the pleasant. Because I guess he's asserting there that if you choose something, if you voluntarily choose it, if it's actually a conscious act in your mind to choose it, then your primary focus isn't pain or pleasantness. I don't know if I can defend that. I couldn't find a way to say that. No, I think that appetite relates to what's pleasant and painful, but choice couldn't relate to anything else at the end of the day. You know, if you see more in it than that, then you can have it and take it home with you. Good stuff. Next paragraph. Still less is it anger, for acts due to anger are thought to be less than any other objects of choice. Now he says there, acts due to anger are thought to be. He didn't say that they are. He said they are thought to be less than any other objects of choice. But in actuality, acts due to anger are acts of choice. Let's go on. But neither is it wish, though it seems near to it, for choice cannot relate to impossibilities, which he would define wish as having something to do with. And if anyone said he chose them, he would be thought silly, or religious, I would say. But there may be a wish even for impossibles, as he just asserted. Example given for immortality. He says immortality is impossible? Well, I wonder why he never got hung up for that. And wish may relate to things that could in no way be brought about by one's own efforts. Right, that's true. But desire or appetite or voluntary action couldn't relate to things that are completely irrelevant to your own efforts, but a wish could. All right. Example given that a particular actor or athlete should win in a competition, right? It's nothing you could do to change whether that actor or athlete's going to win. But no one chooses such things, but only the thing that he thinks could be brought about by his own efforts. So you can't make a choice. You can't act voluntarily with things that have nothing to do with you. It has to have something to do with you in order for you to be said to be choosing it or acting voluntarily with regard to it. Now here's a good key sentence. Wishing relates rather to the end. Choice relates to the means. So if you're wishing, you can just wish for anything, then you don't even think about the stuff in between here and there. A wish is just to snap your fingers and pop right to the goal. But he says choice, the act of choosing, is totally different from wishing, because choice involves all the steps in between here and whatever goal you're choosing. Completely opposite. Someone who sits around wishing, oh, I wish this, I wish that, is very different from someone who actually chooses things in life. One of them's using their brain, the other really isn't. So again, choice relates to things within our own power. For this reason also, it cannot be opinion. For opinion is thought to relate to all kinds of things, no less to eternal things and impossible things than to things in our own power. And it is distinguished by its falsity or truth, not by its goodness or badness, while choice is distinguished rather by these. Now, that seems to be a refutation of James Dewey, that last paragraph. For this reason, too, it cannot be opinion,